IVM.
Hey everybody, welcome to the 106th episode of Shunya 1. We have a really fun conversation ahead of us. This one is with Daniel Arnberg. So Daniel is the founder and CEO of Guessenger. It's a really interesting platform that kind of looks at different ways in terms of how the wisdoms of the crowds can be applied to different questions which people might have about the future. It's a really fun conversation. Daniel's a really interesting guy. I'm sure that you'll enjoy it.
We want to thank Intel, who is our sponsor for this show.
I just can't get over it. It makes me so happy every time we say that Intel sponsors our show.
Absolutely. And especially the fact that we've been talking about Intel vPro, the business platform, and all the cool stuff that it comes with, which helps any business or an IT infrastructure guy sort of manage their systems.
This week we're going to talk a little bit about the active management technology they have, or AMT, right? So this is something that lets the IT manager really kind of take control of the systems that he's managing, right? So it allows for things like remote power on, set wake-up times and schedule updates. And basically you can look at all of your infrastructure remotely. Even if it's down, you can get an idea of what's happening, where the issues are.
Absolutely. In fact, in older companies, when people had issues with hardware, it will be basically waiting for a tech to show up all day and fix it physically at that place. But here, with stuff like this, you can actually ensure there's remote management with all-time visibility on exact status of everything in the system.
Yeah, no, I think this is great in terms of making your workforce IT infrastructure both powerful and efficient. But you know what, guys? Don't take our word for it. Go check it out. Go to intel.in/vpro. That's intel.in/vpro.
All right, Daniel, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here and welcome to Shunya 1.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaskar,
right? Namaskar.
Namaskar. It is.
Namaskar. I think both of them work.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and welcome to your first trip to Mumbai.
Thank you. Yeah, what a vibrant city, man. It's a crazy place. They say it's the New York of India, and I believe it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wow. We had someone here earlier who was talking about how it's not like New York at all. It's a whole another level.
Yeah, it is. I mean, well, here's the thing. I think the first time I ever traveled outside of Europe, I was 25. This was like 20 years back, reveals my age. Okay. And I went to New Delhi as a backpacker on a shoestring budget. I stayed in the Paharganj district. Yeah. And I mean, when I walked out of the airport, there was like 100 cab drivers who were just, seeing, a guy, and he's going to need to have a taxi. It's like the cultural experience of coming to India the first time. Yeah. It's for a Westerner, it's overwhelming. Yeah. So now I'm kind of getting used to it. But I think Mumbai has so much to offer. Yeah, the coastline, the vibrancy of the city. Yeah. It's a very special place.
Wonderful, and I hope you get a chance to see more of it on this trip or in future trips. But you mentioned your first trip here, which was a backpacking trip. But I think you've been here again, and that time it was on work. And that brings me to ask you about your background. You're unlike most of the tech entrepreneurs that I think I've had as guests on our show. You're actually someone in astrophysics. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, it's true. I probably have quite a different background compared to many. I don't have a business background. I don't necessarily have an engineering background, but I'm interested in science. And it actually comes from my mom. When I was a kid, I have this medical condition called hemophilia, which means that the blood doesn't clot as it should be. Yeah. Right. So playing football was never an option, or soccer, or anything like
Contact
that. So
sports,
exactly. So my mom bought me a telescope. Look at the stars instead, read books. so I kind of, looking at stars is fun, And she did this when I was very young. So my mom is a smart woman. So she realized that I'd become a nerd instead of a football player. So that's how my whole astronomy interest came about. And I think a lot of kids are interested in the universe. I mean, you look at the planets and the stars and the galaxies, and then they kind of grow out of it. But I'm still a kid. So that's how it all started. Anyway, so I went to uni, read astronomy, astrophysics. And then I started working at a company that did data visualization. So like you take interesting data sets, big data sets, typically astronomy data sets, and then visualize them. And normally that visualization is done in planetariums. Like you have the Nehru Planetarium here, I believe, in Mumbai. Yeah, we never got to renovate or participate in the update of that. I'm not sure if it's actually become digital yet, but we did the one in Birla Planetarium outside Kolkata. We did the software for that one. So it was Carl Zeiss who upgraded that, and I think that was 2016, 15. Okay. So it's like just at the end of my journey with a data visualization company before I went into virtual reality.
So what is data visualization in an astrophysical sense? I mean, like, can you give me an example of
throwing stars on the wall?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So you sit in this dome, right? And all of a sudden you kind of turn down the light and a little music starts, and then you look up at the night sky.
Right.
And here in Mumbai, it's kind of difficult to see the night sky because of the air,
smoke,
and also because of the water vapor coming in from the sea. So typically you might not see the night sky, and then you look up and you point out the stars. But now with data visualization, we can take like data sets from the moon and we can land you on a crater on the moon. And what would the night sky look like from here, and how does this look like? You can see topography on Mars.
Okay.
So and this is all kind of backed by science, so it's really, really cool. And then of course you speculate and think about your place in the universe, and all of these kind of big philosophical question. And that's really one of the reasons I got into astronomy in the first place.
Yeah. In fact, planetariums used to be the only place you could do this, right? As a individual experience this. And interesting that you actually moved from there to the world of VR.
Yeah.
Which is actually, I think, the only other place anyone has been able to do this.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's so once you kind of render on a dome and so on, and you want to do the kind of journeys to other worlds. I mean, virtual reality gave us the perfect tools for it, right?
Yeah.
And we're kind of keen on keeping it as a social experience as well. So you don't go to Saturn on your own. How fun is that? You don't have anyone to talk about it with, right? So the Cassini mission was just about to end in, I think, 2017. So we wanted to bring people to the rings of Saturn, the ring plane of Saturn, and actually show what it looked like.
Wow.
So we created an experience and integrated, helmets and a computer on your back, so you could render to the VR headsets, and we put leap motion on top of the VR headset, so you could see your hands, and you could see the other guy's hands as well. So 4 people, and you could do a high five in space.
Wow!
Yeah, it's a pretty wild experience.
And that was the startup that you were.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And our part of that was in system integration, so that's what we were pretty good at. I mean, we had already worked with projectors and computers and putting them together in order to stitch together a full screen, right, on an image. So putting together a backpack and virtual reality and the leap motion and then building an environment for that, that was it was easier than building a planetarium, but still tricky. I mean, lots of prototyping.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how was that? Where else did you transport people using Enterspace?
So we did one experience in going to space, and that was kind of our niche. But then, of course, a lot of other people use that technology. So the company that bought us actually created lots of other experiences. They did The Mummy. I don't know if you remember the the movie, The Mummy. Yeah, it's like a Hollywood movie. So they did a VR show for that, and the same thing for The Walking Dead. So a couple of those kind of signature experiences they did. Those were often single player experience though. So like one guy going in with a gun, shooting zombies or mummies or whatever. Which I think VR is interested in. But for us, the big thing was to create it as a location, like pretty much like a planetarium, like a venue you go to consume an experience. Because at the same time as this was happening, the kind of VR was growing and everyone was talking VR. There was also talk about the death of retail. I don't know if you heard about it, but like shops closing, at least in Europe, because more and more shopping gets done online, meaning that shopping malls will have empty spaces. And what are they going to fill it with? Well, maybe something that will attract people to the shopping mall. So that's our kind of business plan back then. And I think there were quite a few had the same business plan, of course.
And it's, I think, become a reality. Even in India now, there are malls which have more experience zones than shops.
Yes, exactly. And in the end, I think VR, it could be kind of any type of technology vehicle for us. That was not the key thing that it was VR, but it was a way of telling a story and attracting people to come and consume a story. And that's kind of the interesting thing. And we wanted to do a story that was not shooting zombies and not shoot, but actually have a little bit of a scientific content to it as well, making the ring plane look like it did. And you have these kind of ripples in the rings of Saturn that we could show as well. So make it into a proper journey. So for like $30, which is quite steep, I'm sure here, you could go to the ring plane of Saturn. But it's a lot cheaper than hitchhiking on Elon Musk's SpaceX rockets to Saturn. That's going to be a couple of billions. So on the scale of things, it's
Interesting. And tell us about how, you're of course based in Stockholm.
That's right, yeah.
Right? And how was it building over there? And which parts of the world were you able to sort of take this experience to?
So for us, we were actually only one out of 7 or 8 companies that were acquired at the same time. So we didn't play like a massive part in that journey. And that journey was fairly short after all. It's like 3-year journey or so.
Right.
So it took us to build a VR park in Dubai. At Dubai Mall, actually. So the experience that we did was just kind of a gateway to sign that contract and actually get that done. But that was done by the mother company.
Nice.
I think I spent quite a bit of time in Dubai for a while, and obviously
Dubai Mall is huge. It has a bunch of experience.
Yes, it's massive. Yes, you have an ice rink and of course like a cinema, the aquarium. Yeah. Actually, the guy who built the aquarium was the counterpart who took this initiative to work with us on this VR park. He's a very nice guy. Paul Hamilton is his name. He's a marine biologist. So as an astronomer and a marine biologist, we hit it off pretty well.
You got together and built a tech platform.
Yes, 2 scientists coming together and thinking about stuff that the engineers have to solve.
Wow. Very interesting. Very interesting. And I think it's going to become more and more of a common sort of experience for people to want and go to try out.
Yeah, it might be that VR and AR might merge together, and I think also there's a journey to be made in enabling technology, like making it more portable, making it more affordable. But eventually, there's every reason that it should become a cool platform to do gaming, social activities, and whatnot on. And kind of with the geolocation, you already see it with like Pokemon, right? The Pokemon Go kind of setup. The iterations of that will revolutionize the gaming world. Yeah,
it's already happening.
Yeah.
In fact, from there to what you're doing now, which is Guessworks.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about that journey and, of course, what you're doing there.
So that's now we're leaving the stars and the planets and the galaxies and our role in the universe, and we start thinking about the future, right? Well, effectively, like during these journeys, we had a lot of thoughts about what's going to happen. The essential question is what's going to happen, and we think about the future and maybe the past about half our waking time, the time that we're awake. And we think about, what am I going to have for breakfast tomorrow? Who's going to win the next election? Will Liverpool win the Champions League again? I'm a big Liverpool fan. So you think about these things in the context of sports, in politics, in economics. How will the next quarter report be? Will the company reach these goals? Oh, will he serve that horrible cup of coffee? He does such weak coffee, and you make these kind of guesses and games with your friends. So we want to package that in our platform that's called Guessenger. So you make a guess or a prediction about the future. I'll make a counter guess and a prediction about the future. And then we'll get a reminder in a week, an hour, a year, when Elon Musk lands on Mars or whenever, and we'll essentially evaluate what we once thought would happen. So we'll get kind of combine the prediction and the guess with an actual outcome and see if we were right or wrong. So many times we're so certain something's going to happen, right? And we kind of want to package that and give it to your friends to bash you over the head with.
Or you get to tell them, I told you so.
Exactly. And that is a powerful incentive of packaging something. So you'll have a nice timestamp. We're going to do it like a card game. So because I think card games are quite popular all around the world. And, whether you look into a crystal ball on the card game and you flip it around, you said, I told you so, and you send that to a friend on WhatsApp or Line or whatever is your social media of choice, Post it publicly if you want to rub it in.
And what's I can understand that this is, as a package, it can be made really interesting. What's the underlying, I would say, objective of building a platform like this? Is it to encourage more people to take a guess, or
Yeah.
what's the
That is an excellent question.
Yeah.
I think in the most pure sense, it's because I want to use it.
That's what I'm thinking, right? I mean, like you use it as aggregated data to
Yeah.
kind of make a sense of.
Yes, that. But also, I want to use it. I want to make predictions, and I want to hit my head with the card I told you so.
I meant use it in the sense of
Yes,
like use the data.
Yes, no, but that is actually true. I mean, then you have to have a business case, right?
Right.
Or at least something that resembles a business case. So the idea is, well, if you attract people to use a platform enough, you can sell advertisement.
Right.
So that's kind of an obvious one. Mm-hmm. You could probably do betting as well, but I don't want to create another betting platform. It could become like a betting as an add-on, or but I don't necessarily want to encourage that behavior. And to a certain extent, sure, if we have a bet about something and we'll buy each other a beer or a chai, fair enough. And of course, the third thing is, if you have a lot of people making predictions about the future, it would be pretty cool to sift through that data. Are you right more often than you're wrong? Who's going to be right more often than they're wrong? Can you say something about 10,000 people in Mumbai guessing, something about the economy next year, or whether this movie will become a success, who's going to win? I don't know. If you have the Bollywood scene here, right?
Yeah. Right.
Do you have like an Academy Award or something? Like someone...
We have a Filmfare Award.
Filmfare, who's going to win the Filmfare Award for best, and you make these kind of predictions and guesses, and, you're right or wrong, So is there a correlation? And are there people who are better at predicting the future than others? And why? So that would be interesting, wouldn't it?
It's also a sign of the sentiment of folks, right? If they're guessing a certain way, it also is a very interesting indicator of how they're thinking.
Yes.
Right? And in fact, that also brings me to ask you about your experience in India here, especially with this new product and new platform now.
Yeah.
India is, we have a lot of Indians on social media.
Yes.
And we have clearly a lot of time to talk about our opinions, and we're very opinionated folks. So what do you see when you see people like us using a platform like this?
I see lots of synergies. I think in India you're just like in the beginning or halfway through your kind of journey of growth and of innovation. I mean, here, your country is so vibrant. There's things happening kind of all the time. Whereas sometimes I consider Sweden to be, yes, it's mature in a way, but it's also more stale. So to access the Indian market is like jumping on a high-speed train going through. You have no idea where you're going to end up. Like predictability here, I think, is much harder maybe than in Sweden. I mean, here you really have the unpredictable happening. Yeah. It's like just this morning, someone asked me, do you want to come and do a podcast? Yeah, sure. And here I am. I'd never been able to guess, So those kind of things are quite interesting. But of course, if you look at the data, you have 400 million Android users with I understood that you had a revolution moving from desktop to phone with a new company coming in on the phone market, making kind of data so much more accessible. Yeah. And of course, you're going to experience a massive growth over the next few years. I think the aim of your Prime Minister Modi is 12% per year or so on that level, which I mean, in Sweden,
at our scale, is massive.
Yes, and in Sweden, if we had 3%, it's a massive success. And you guys are doing 12%, and there's like 1.3 billion Indians. I mean, it's just so cool. You have such a big and cool country. So it's like, if you don't want to be in India, why don't you want to be in India? I'd change it around, This is the place to be. Yes,
of course.
Yes,
but tell us about what you've been able to build so far, and a little bit more about where you're taking this.
So at this stage, we're really just in the alpha stage. So we're testing prototypes and we're doing tests on the user interface, making all these kind of small decisions that in the end builds a good whole. The idea is that the platform should be free, because we want to encourage usage and build a big user base.
Is there another thought in terms of how you can incentivize usage? I mean, or is it, are you just kind of like, if you build it, they will come?
No, this is a very good question. I mean, I think in a lot of cases, like people like us, we build these fantastic houses and mansions and whatnot, but no one ever opens the door and have a look inside, right? And then you build a massive mansion and you have no idea. There's no guests coming, right?
Right.
So what I'd like to do is to partner with companies or interested people who are interested in the future and have their predictions populate the platform before we kind of make it available. Okay. That's number one. Number two is the links must be easy to share.
Right.
So you share it on existing platforms. Like, for example, this Swedish group that's been here, we've had a WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
And there's been lots of different predictions about what will happen here. Everything from, how many people will have let's say a bit of problems with our stomachs.
Yes.
Not going into depth, but this is a growing, predictions, guesses, stuff like that.
Right.
We could have made lots of fun guesses by just sharing a link on a WhatsApp platform and have people upvote, downvote. And if they like it, they sign up. If they don't like it, they just pop in, have a vote, and that's it. So by that sense, we give our users something that they can enjoy. And in return, if they like it, they can sign up and become part of it and then kind of join the ecosystem. And I think also for an influencer or a brand, I've spoken to a couple of interesting brands here in India and also in Europe. Within football, for example, there's a couple of well-known brands, and those they have an interest of engaging with their fans and their supporters or their followers. And by gamifying guesses, this is a way of kind of interacting more with your brand or with your follow base. So for a celebrity or an influencer, this could be a fun way of playing a game versus your favorite football player or play a game against a manager or whichever it might be.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah.
So that's the kind of basis. So kind of onboarding by using interesting topics. Like we had a chat about this just at the time when Donald Trump said, "I'm going to buy Greenland," and this is typical prediction. So by the end of the year, you'll come up and say, "No, I did," or whatever is currently a hot topic, and then you kind of tag on to that. So when when Donald Trump tweets something, you can kind of add, is this going to happen or not, or is this exactly, and then you kind of funnel users from whichever social media is popular in that particular country.
Right.
And the idea is then that you gamify predictions, and that by doing that and only that, we can focus on something. We'll never compete with Twitter or Facebook
it's a different space, right?
Exactly.
It's not the publishing thing. It's like it's additive to publishing.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like a kind of a content generator. So instead of just writing text or just posting a picture, here you'll share a game.
Interesting. And I'm very keen to understand the potential for how this could be a predictor for things in the future as well. Like again, how does as a scientist, what is your appeal in getting the answers here, or seeing how people use a platform like this?
Well, I'm fairly agnostic in many ways. So I'll let the chips fall where they may. So to say, I might have a hypothesis, but if the data come in and it disproves it, I'll have to give it up, right? Yeah. So in that sense, I don't necessarily have a strong opinion on how much we will be able to predict. I think, though, that there are some people who are better at seeing. It's like a game of chess. You can see a lot of moves in advance. You might be a better predictor. I think there's something to that, but not necessarily on will it be possible to do on a broad scale level? If it's a very defined question, you might be able to get there. Like, for example, the US election, it's one example, the Brexit vote. You had a lot of people who thought they knew what's going to happen, and they were completely wrong. Whereas if you would have a large subsample of people who would guess, you could probably have guessed the outcome better. And that would probably have, influenced things. There's another question as well, which is quite interesting, and that is, if you have a lot of people making predictions or guesses around the topic and they come down on one side, how much will that shape reality and shape the future? Exactly. And I think that might also be an interesting thing that we might see more of. But I wouldn't dare to guess exactly where we're going with this. Not yet, anyway. And like I said, I'm fairly agnostic on where let the chips fall where they may, and let's see if we actually get any data that we can use. It might be that this becomes a fun game, and maybe the data doesn't correlate with any future outcomes or whatnot. What do you think?
If it doesn't, then the whole wisdom of the crowds thing's out the window, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It would be. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, that's, I think, valuable in and of itself, right?
Yeah,
it is.
Wisdom
of the crowds.
Yes. It's kind of, people sometimes ask me, do you think there's life out there? I mean, outside life out there is like Norway, yeah. But outside of Earth, and you say, well, if we'd find it, it would be amazing. And if we'd never find anything, that's also quite amazing. I mean, we're actually alone. I don't know which one is most scariest.
Or they chose to not talk to us.
Yes.
They heard all our conversations and they chose to not talk to us.
They do the Groucho Marx thing, right? I don't want to be a member of any club that would have me as a member.
Exactly. Yes. Well, they said leave it to themselves. These guys, we don't want to chat with them.
Yeah. They're gonna destroy their planet anyway.
Yeah.
But coming a little bit more about, again, the fact that you're building this out of Sweden, and of course India is potentially a huge market. You've been here for some time now on this trip, not inside the planetarium, but out in the market yourself. Where do you see is the biggest potential for using a platform like this? Is it our social media? Is it the standard social media that you see here? Or you mentioned WhatsApp. I mean, WhatsApp is huge in India, right?
Yeah.
There's also a recent, a lot of cut down on the way in which WhatsApp can be misused to shape opinions and form opinions.
Yeah.
Because it's unlike a Twitter or a Facebook, which is a little more public and one to many. WhatsApp is very personal networks.
Exactly.
What's your take on that? Do you think there's a potential danger in people shaping other people's opinions using things like this?
I almost think, on the contrary, as long as you're transparent and you say what you think, and if you're good at convincing people and you're charismatic, it's kind of a marketplace of thoughts. That's how I see it anyway. Mm-hmm. I might be wrong, but as long as and I'm a big proponent on the freedom of expression. I think that's kind of one of the most basic human rights you can have. Even if the expression or whatever thinking you have might be controversial, I might vehemently disagree with you, but I'd really defend your right to say it and express it. I think that's just a key thing. And then for us, whether the platform becomes like you and me, a friendly game, and we play over WhatsApp or some other eventually I hope that we'll be able to attract people to use our platform and actually browse it for a bit and have a look at the feed or. But whether it's a one-to-one or one-to-many, and whichever platform it is, I mean, our product, I want it to be agnostic. So it's the actual guessing game and the packaging, the kind of flipping of a card that you send to a friend and, I knew this is going to happen, That is the kind of experience I want to bottle. And if we only bottle that well, I think that could survive changes on the market, even if it's like limitations or whatnot. It's almost like, when you share a link, that kind of ease of use.
And what's your where can people try this out, or do you want to do a quick shout out to how people can reach you on Twitter, or where can they make their guesses?
So right now you can't make your guesses because we're only in alpha, right? But I'm going to come back here in a year. This is a prediction, and by that time we will have it ready. And I'm hoping that we might be able to kind of show it off on like TechSparks or one of the big conferences. Right. Maybe we'll have a couple of companies, maybe a few influencers or celebrities here in Mumbai. Maybe a few who would be interested in joining, and we could launch it together. That would be kind of my dream. If people want to reach me, I'm available on Twitter as Astro Arnberg. I'm more of a lurker, though, so I'm kind of browsing and looking around and whatnot. But you can find me there, Astro Arnberg. So that's the right way, just at me there.
Awesome.
Great. Yeah. So just a quick reminder, guys, that if you want to join our Slack channel, please go to ibmpodcast.com/Shunya1. There's a button over there saying join Slack. Click that button, send us your email, and we'll invite you to the channel. Also, please do make sure that you send us, Please do make sure that you give us a rating or review wherever you're listening to the podcast. If you're listening to it on iTunes, that would be great. If you're listening to wherever else, find a place to put a rating and send that to us.
Yes. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you so much for this very interesting guesswork conversation. And I'm hoping, I'm going to guess that we'll talk again and we'll hear about how everything pans out.
Cool. See you in a year.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Hey guys, this is me, Eva Bhatt, your host for the podcast 9XM Soundcast. This podcast is produced by India's largest music network, 9X Media. We have been catering music and you have been enjoying. And now we bring you a podcast where music inspires. Every week, I interact with some of the best minds from the music industry to understand their creative discipline. Every new episode will feature artists who will share inspiring notes from their journey, some valuable tips for budding artists. So do subscribe to the podcast where music inspires. Enjoy a brand new episode of 9XM Soundcast every Tuesday on IVM Podcast app or website or wherever you get your podcast from.
नमस्ते, मैं हूँ सौरभ चंद्रा
और मैं प्रणय कोटस्ताने।
जब महफिल खत्म होते होते दरवाजे के बाहर पुलिया के ऊपर हम दुनिया भर की जटिल समस्याओं को सॉल्व करने में लग जाते हैं तो हो जाती है पुलियाबाजी।
अब आजकल के अपार्टमेंट वालों ने तो कभी पुलिया देखी नहीं होगी, पर आप फीलिंग तो समझ ही सकते हैं।
तो आइए शामिल हो जाइए हमारी पुलियाबाजी में, जहाँ प्रणय और मैं एक से एक इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक्स की तह तक जाएंगे।
आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, बिटकॉइन, पाकिस्तान, मेडिकल एजुकेशन, करेंसी क्राइसिस, कभी हम दोनों के साथ और अक्सर स्पेशल एक्सपर्ट गेस्ट की कंपनी में।
सुनिए हमें IVM की वेबसाइट, ऐप या अपने फेवरेट पॉडकास्टिंग प्लेटफॉर्म पर हर दूसरे हफ्ते।